Why Spanish football's problems are not over with the resignation of Luis Rubiales. What you don't know about the Spanish women's football debacle. On the 10th of September, Luis Rubiales resigned, marking the end of a struggle by Spanish women's football players. Or is it the end? Tensions between players and their coach, a non-consensual kiss, and Spanish football's own #MeToo moment. 2023 has been an embarrassing year for the Spanish Football Association. But the problems for Spanish women's football started well before the 2023 World Cup. What if this was not the first time Spain had dismissed a women's national coach after accusations of mistreating players? What if this was not Luis Rubiales' first scandal, or his second or third? What if the Spanish women's problems were not over with Luis Rubiales and Jorge Vilda's departure? This is the complete story of Spanish football versus its women's players. We'll get back to the video in just a minute. This is a quick interruption to ask you to like the video and subscribe to Women's Sports Club. It helps us amplify the stories of women in sport. Chapter 1. A new appointment. Spanish women's football had been on the rise for some time. The youth women's teams had been dominant at international tournaments, winning multiple FIFA Youth World Cups. European powerhouse clubs' youth academies were opening their doors to girls for the first time. La Maisa, Barcelona's famed youth academy, welcomed girls for the first time in 2021. La Liga clubs were establishing women's programs, and Liga F teams became a fixture of the later rounds of the UEFA Women's Champions League. Liga F teams were consistently breaking women's sports attendance records, packing out stadiums such as Camp Nou. Alexia Putella won the Ballon d'Or Feminine in back-to-back years in 2021 and then again in 2022. So how did things go so wrong for the Spanish women's team with all this positive momentum? To tell that story, we need to rewind to the 2015 World Cup. Spain qualified for the FIFA Women's World Cup for the first time in 2015. Despite it being their first appearance, expectations were high, but the team's run did not go to plan. Spain finished last in their group, only managing one draw to Costa Rica and losing every other game. Following the tournament, the players expressed that they did not feel adequately prepared. Subsequently, it emerged that there had been issues between the players and their coach. These had been raised prior to the tournament with then president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation, RFEF, Angel Maria Villar, who was dismissive of the players' concerns. In a 2021 documentary, Breaking the Silence, the players accused Coach Carrera of abuse and homophobia, among other very problematic behaviors. In the documentary, players are quoted saying, "Homosexuality was something that Carrera wanted to eradicate." Following the underperformance, Coach Ignacio Carrera was sacked, ending his 27-year tenure at the helm of the Spanish women's national team. He was to be replaced by the U19 coach, Jorge Vilda. Who is Jorge Vilda? Jorge Vilda's career as a manager had exclusively been with the Spanish women's youth national teams. He took over this post from his father, being part of the success the program had at the youth level. By 2019, many of the players Jorge Vilda had coached in youth teams had made their way into the Spanish national team, including superstars such as Alexia Putella, Ivana Andres, and Mariona Caldente. Under Vilda, Spain secured a second appearance at the FIFA Women's World Cup in 2019 with a respectable round of 16 exit versus the eventual winners, the USA, going down 2-1 on a Megan Rapinoe penalty. Chapter 2. Building tensions. Following the successful run Spain had made at the 2019 FIFA Women's World Cup, they crashed out of the UEFA European Championships, losing to England on an Ella Toone goal. The team was once again deemed to have underperformed their potential. It should be noted that two key players were sitting out due to injury. Alexia Putella's Ballon d'Or winner and Jenny Hermoso, the team's all-time leading goal scorer. It later emerged that the players had approached RFEF president Luis Rubiales with concerns about Jorge Vilda's management style, citing abuse, concerns about injury management, and a generally toxic atmosphere at training. Following the tournament, 15 players contacted the RFEF, withdrawing themselves from consideration for national team selection. Luis Rubiales' response on behalf of the RFEF was less than compassionate. Rubiales questioned the players' competency to make such assessments, made it clear he expected them to beg for forgiveness to be considered for selection again, and threatened to ban them for up to 5 years for refusal to play for the national team. This is all in the context of the citing mental health issues, so was wildly inappropriate. Mostly, both sides held firm on their threats. Spain took the youngest team on average to the FIFA World Cup in 2023, only selecting 3 of the 15 players that had previously made themselves ineligible for selection. The story was quickly picked up by the media as Spain was expected to be a real contender in the run-up to the World Cup in 2023, despite their performance at the UEFA tournament. Despite the road to the World Cup being fraught with obstacles, the Spanish team performed incredibly well. The young talent performed, with several new superstars minted on the world stage. Other than a blip at the group stage in a 4-0 loss to Japan, the team had a fairy tale run ending with a 1-0 defeat of England in the grand final. The Spanish women's team had won, and in spite of the problems with the administration, they had come out on top of the world. The team's problems were over, but it wasn't over. Chapter 3: The Non-Consensual Kiss. The final whistle blew and Spain began to celebrate. The trophy and medal presentations were underway. As veteran forward, Jenny Hermoso took to the stage to collect her medal. This wasn't the first time Rubiales had been caught in an inappropriate celebration at the World Cup. There is footage of him in a crotch-grab celebration while standing next to Spanish Queen Letizia and her 16-year-old daughter. Who is Luis Rubiales? Luis Rubiales had a moderately successful career as a player, mostly bouncing around lower-grade Spanish professional soccer. He made his La Liga debut with Club Levante, playing 2 seasons in the top tier of Spanish soccer. He then agreed to a 1-year deal with Scottish Premier League club Hamilton, where he made only 3 appearances before announcing his retirement. Upon retirement, Rubiales rejoined his former club Levante's backroom briefly before being elected president of the Players Association, AFE, a position he served in from 2010 to 2017. In 2017, he resigned. After resigning from the AFI, Rubiales ran for president of the Royal Spanish Football Federation in 2017 and won. Almost immediately, he was embroiled in controversy. Among other things, dismissing the men's Spanish national team coach on the eve of the 2018 FIFA World Cup. In 2022, allegations of corruption surfaced in the form of audio files in which Rubiales negotiating to pay Piqué commissions related to playing the Supercopa de España in Saudi Arabia. One of the conditions for these commissions was that 2 of the 4 participating teams would need to be Barcelona and Real Madrid. Rubiales would also benefit from these commissions due to the variable part of his salary in the federation. Rubiales' uncle and former chief of staff, Juan Rubiales, accused Rubiales of embezzlement of RFEF money, allegedly spent on private parties, with a group of friends in a house in Salobreña in 2020. He has also been accused of using Federation resources for his personal enjoyment, such as a trip to New York in 2018, accompanied by his girlfriend. Rubiales subsequently sued Wikipedia for including details of his alleged corruption on his page. Chapter 4: An Unacceptable Response. You would think Rubiales would immediately apologize and deem his actions inappropriate as soon as he saw the public outcry. Well, he didn't, instead doubling down on the fact the kiss was consensual, despite footage showing it clearly wasn't. Rubiales issued statements on behalf of the Spanish Football Federation, threatening legal action against Jenny Hermoso. Rubiales' actions became global media headlines around the world. The kiss and Rubiales' response was quickly condemned by high-profile figures around the world, including Alex Morgan, Xavi Hernandez, and Borja Iglesias. Spanish players boycotted the national team, both men and women, refusing to play until Rubiales resigned. The regional Spanish football presidents made similar calls, and the Players Associations, both AFE and FIFPro, released statements demanding Rubiales be investigated for misconduct. In response, Rubiales threatened to sue the president of the AFE, Tamara Ramos, in an official statement released by the RFEF, and made personal attacks on his former colleague. In an extraordinary general meeting of the RFEF in which it was expected Rubiales would resign, he again doubled down claimed he was the victim of a witch hunt by false feminists, among a host of other offensive things, in a last-ditch attempt to defend his actions and save his job. The day after, FIFA stepped in, suspending Rubiales under an ethics investigation for 90 days. FIFA banned Rubiales from contacting Jenny Hermoso directly or indirectly while the investigation is ongoing. It was alleged that Jenni Hermoso was being pressured to appear in a video with Rubiales, saying that it was a misunderstanding that the kiss was consensual. Jorge Vilda was said to have repeatedly attempted to contact both Jenni and her family, begging for this to occur. The Spanish government charged Rubiales with serious misconduct in the sports court. This meant instead of very serious misconduct, which meant if FIFA could not conclude the investigation within the suspension period, Rubiales could return to his position to the RFEF. To add insult to injury, the Spanish government attempted to honor the achievements of the women's soccer team. Upon releasing the list of players to be honored, they incorrectly included Ivana Icardi, the influencer sister of a La Liga player who is Argentinian, not Spanish, instead of Ivana Andres, a long-term member of the team. Interim Spanish football president's first action was to dismiss Jorge Vilda as the manager of the national team, appointing Montse Thome as his replacement. Montse Thome is set to become the first woman to hold the top job. 3 weeks after the incident, Luis Rubiales finally resigned his post as president of the Spanish Football Federation and vice president of UEFA. Further investigations into Rubiales are pending for sexual assault and his prior corruption. A wider anti-sexual violence, anti-machismo, and pro-women's equity movement in society and sports developed out of the Rubiales affair. Based on a tweet from Alexia Putella, the movement is known by its hashtag call, #Se acabó. It's over. With the Spain women's football players hoping to use their collective voice to force deep systemic change in the RFEF, to make it less sexist and more equitable for women in football. Se acabó additionally became an outlet for women in Spain to speak up about sexual harassment and everyday sexism they experienced. Se acabó, it's over. But not entirely. Chapter 5, Fight for Fair Pay in Liga F. In the background, for the last 11 months, Spanish women's football had another fight, for fair pay in their club games. The minimum salary for a Liga F player is currently a measly 16,000 euros per year, or about $17,200 US dollars. Upwards of 90% of players in Liga F are Spanish women. FIF Pro, the Women's Football Players Association, has been seeking an increase to 23,000 euros per year, $24,700 US dollars. In response, Liga F has offered 20,000, and negotiations have stalled. Liga F have cited profitability concerns, but FIFPro rebukes these claims as not true with a growing sponsorship and media rights base. The Spanish government has stepped in, issuing warning letters to the Spanish football clubs, stating that pay differences must be reasonable. This is the first step by the Spanish Labor Ministry into a broader investigation into the matter. Spain's female soccer players have been demanding higher wages and better conditions for years. They reached their first collective bargaining agreement in 2020 and have been pushing to improve conditions ever since. The players are seeking higher wages, contracts that continue during maternity leave, and access to the same nutritionists and physical therapists that male players use. The strike will affect games scheduled for Friday through Sunday and September 15th, 17. What does it all mean? The support the world has shown both Jenni Hermoso and the Spanish national team has been heartwarming, even if it took much too long for them to be taken seriously. Protests and rallies in Spain and around the world have been important, but the fight for equality isn't over with Rubiales' departure. Liga F players' fight for fair pay mirrors women playing in leagues around the world, struggling for livable salaries as female athletes. Let's not lose sight of the achievement of the Spanish women's soccer in scaling to the top of the mountain against real adversity. Thanks for watching. If you like this video and could like and subscribe, that would be appreciated as it helps us amplify the stories of women in sport. If you want more content from Women's Sports Club, check us out on Instagram, Twitter, and Medium. Bye!